So you want to know the secret to how I was able to conquer portion control? How I was able to control how much food I ate so that I could successfully lose 80 pounds? At first, it's going to sound a little crazy to you. You're not going to want to do it. The way I did it was I stopped eating the foods that caused me to overeat. Boom. There you go. I know it's profound, but I bet you nobody's ever told you to do that before. I bet you nobody ever said to you, oh, those foods that you're overeating, some of those of which are probably your favorite foods, what if you stopped eating those altogether? No, that's not what anybody says. The problem I had was I would eat maybe 4 or 5 slices of pizza when really I should have stopped it too. I would eat Chinese food until I felt physically sick. And then an hour later, I'd be looking for that ice cream, right? Those were a whole lot of foods that I didn't have control over. And so I needed to give them up. Hi, my name is Heather Schucker. I lost 80 pounds through intermittent fasting, low carb eating, and regular exercise. I'm a nurse practitioner, which means I'm a primary care provider, but I am not your primary care provider. I'm not here to offer you medical advice. If that's something you need to go talk to your person. What would happen is I would eat that way, and then not only would I feel physically sick, I would feel ashamed about it. Like, why can't I control this? Why am I eating more than I should of these foods? And I thought of myself as a glutton, and it was embarrassing, and I did not like it at all. And that's when I realized that if I really wanted to have control over my food and over my body and over how I felt when I ate, then I needed to stop eating the foods that felt like they had control over me. I just had to let go of them. And I say that like it's an easy thing. Oh, I just stopped eating my absolute favorite foods in the world. No big deal. That's what you should do. Just go right ahead. No, it took a lot of soul searching and work to get to that point. It took beating my head against the wall over and over. Why can't I make this stuff work? And time again, I was falling off the wagon with the same foods. They were derailing my progress. They were making me feel bad about myself. They were keeping the weight on. I just couldn't make progress and eat those foods too. Like, I like to say that I came to a crossroads moment where I had to decide, do I want to lose the weight or do I want to continue eating ice cream and pizza and bread at the same level as I am now? Because I could not have both. And it was not easy. And it was very stressful, and I raged about it a little bit and felt like it was unfair because plenty of people still get to eat their favorite foods and not have a problem. But them was the breaks. I was so committed to getting the weight off that that's a sacrifice that I was willing to make. That was a price I was willing to pay. And it's not like I don't still want them. People say that. They're like, oh, well, you don't even want it anymore. Of course I do. Of course I do. I still desperately want to eat those foods. I was eating them for 46 years. I loved them. That's why I ate them so frequently. The thing is, those foods are an addiction for me more than they are nutrition. Just so happens that they all happen to be unhealthy. I don't think that's a coincidence because I don't feel out of control when I'm eating chicken or salmon or steak. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because nobody ever gave me that advice. I went to a lot of people for help along my 46-year journey. And over again, I heard moderation. You don't have to give up anything you like, just eat less. That's the advice. It's still the advice. As a matter of fact, I hear all kinds of people on social media going on rants about how terrible it is to, listen to these people telling you to eat these restrictive diets and it's so terrible for you and you won't be able to maintain it. So why would you even do that to yourself? Like, people get very animated about not restricting yourself, not doing what I did, specifically warning you against doing the kind of behavior that caused me to be successful. Repeatedly, they say, just keep eating what you want, just have it in small amounts. What I've never heard them answer is, what if I can't? What if I'm like literally incapable of eating those foods in a small amount? What if the half a cup serving size that is what is appropriate for ice cream is like a joke? There is no way I'm stopping at half a cup of ice cream. In my experience, That would be like telling somebody who came to you for a problem with alcohol, who binges, a case of beer every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night and really wants to stop. And your advice to them is, now just drink 2 beers each of those nights. You don't have to give up beer altogether. What kind of advice is that? How effective would that be? How many people have said who struggle with addiction that, I only have control over that first drink. I only have control over that first bite. Why is it wrong to say the same thing about certain foods? For me, that first bite is too much. That's too much for me to handle. I do better if I don't have it at all. And just like that alcohol example, if your advice to me is just have smaller portions, just don't eat as much as you've been eating, well, wouldn't I have done that already? Like, I'm not a dumb person. In the 46 years that I was trying to lose weight, do you think it never occurred to me that maybe I should eat less food? Like, is that supposed to be some stunning revelation? That is why that advice is such garbage. Like, no duh. Of course, the people that are trying to lose weight have tried to eat less crap food that they know give them a problem. I recently talked with someone who was given that advice. She was told she doesn't need to give up soda. She doesn't need to give up junk food. She just needs to eat half as much as she's eating now. And she was like, what? Like, she has more than 100 pounds to lose. How is she supposed to just do that? If she knew how to do that, she wouldn't be asking for advice. I think when people are giving advice about portion control, which I have been given as well, then part of that advice should include how to manage the dopamine and insulin and strong hormones that you're fighting against that is driving you to eat these foods that are highly addictive that you have a hard time stopping yourself. And real talk, I used to be very embarrassed by this. I used to have serious shame over it until I joined a support group and realized exactly how common it is. I am not the only one that struggles with this. And if you have this problem, you are not the only one that struggles with. Obviously, you've got me. It is so common for people that have a lot of extra weight on their body to have this feeling that they don't have control over food, that they can't stop eating it. And I truly think that it's hormonal. I think that our body's response to highly processed foods makes them very addictive. And if you are the type of person that's going to get an addiction, whether it be to heroin or cocaine or alcohol or ice cream, you just are. And we're given these highly processed foods from the time we're young children. So if, it's kind of like if we're giving cocaine to little ones and then shocked that they develop a cocaine problem, like, yup. And yet saying to someone, look, you don't seem to have a whole lot of control over this substance. Maybe the best strategy for you or the best way to deal with it is to just not have it anymore. Oh my God, that is like weight loss blasphemy. You're supposed to never tell somebody that there are foods that they shouldn't have anymore. Like, oh my God, how would you ever tell somebody to stop eating the foods that are making them fat and sick? How could you? Like, what? Okay, what's the strategy then? What's the thing that's going to work instead? I'd love to hear it because I really want to go back to eating pizza and ice cream and fresh baked bread. Like really a lot. Oh, your advice is to just eat less of that thing? I can't. So now what's your advice? Do you remember when Oprah joined Weight Watchers and she was all over those ads saying, I love bread? And the underlying message was, of course, if you join Weight Watchers, you won't have to give up your favorite food. Keep eating all the foods that you love. You can still lose weight. Right? It's like no one has accepted the fact that we aren't simple input-output machines that you can just plug a formula in and will work a certain way. That's not what being a person is like. People seem to think that if you just do all the right math, then the weight loss is going to happen. Right? So, okay, you just eat this many carbs and this much protein and this much fat and you just crunch all these numbers and then this is what you're going to get. And in theory and on paper, sure, I get it. I get why you would have that mindset. But where that falls down is when you're out at a restaurant or at a dinner party, or you're supposed to stop at that one piece of pizza because that's on plan for you, and now you've had 5. Then what? Okay, well, then you just start the math over the next day. And then the next day is somebody's birthday at work and there's cake. I think a small portion of people can do that. And so there are success stories, and there are, before and after pictures of people who lost the weight because they tracked everything and they did all their math and everything worked out perfectly. But what you don't see are all the people that failed, all the people that tried to work their math and never could make that math work and stayed overweight, frustrated and ashamed because it didn't work for them. Because I was that person. Over and over, I was that person. I never got my after picture when I joined these programs because I couldn't figure out how to make it work. The food environment and stress and not getting enough sleep and poor planning and cravings and all of those things just become too much. And we just can't make that plan work for us. So when I heard that Oprah is leaving Weight Watchers because she's using one of the weight loss drugs, no disrespect, but it turns out you can't have bread and lose weight too. My argument is that we need to start treating it the same way that we treat other addictions, because I think we're more likely to find successes. So when somebody comes to me with a problem with alcohol, I don't tell them to manage his portions. I encourage abstinence. When it came to me, when I realized I didn't have control over a substance, I chose abstinence too. Now, I have heard people say, well, you can't use abstinence when it comes to food like you can with drugs and alcohol. You can completely abstain from drugs and alcohol, but you've got to eat. And no shit. Of course, you have to eat. I get it. However, we survived as humans for thousands of years before highly processed foods came into play. And arguably that's why we're all so sick, is because now we have all of this crap that's making everybody ill. So no, you cannot give up food altogether, but you can give up soda. You can give up ice cream. You can give up cookies. You can give up pizza. I could keep going. There are lots of things that we can give up and still have a very healthy human diet. In fact, I would argue we would have a much healthier human diet if we gave those things up. Now, I have witnessed people get very upset at the thought of giving up some of their favorite things, like emotional, angry, visceral reactions ensue. So I understand. And I've seen those same reactions when I've talked to people about giving up alcohol. So the parallels still just keep coming as far as I'm concerned. Now, not everyone overeats those things in the same way I do, that out of control feeling. Maybe they just have it too frequently, and that's what's getting in the way of their weight loss goals. So for them, maybe it's the difference between having that thing every single day of the week and having it once, or having it once a month. So in most things, and I've talked about this before, the dose makes the poison. So if you're capable of having just a little bit of poison, be my guest. I mean, in all things, be my guest. It's your body. You get to do what you want. I'm telling you what worked for me. And I had to get my poison down to almost nothing because girl had no self-control when it comes to certain things. Now, if you're thinking, no way, I'm not giving up my favorite foods. I'm going to keep eating exactly as I want. Okay, yes, do whatever you want. Then you accept the consequence of staying overweight. That is absolutely your choice. Nobody's coming to take your favorite food away. Nobody came and took my ice cream away. I still can buy it. I could order pizza right now if I wanted to. I kind of do want to. I'm not going to, but it's still completely and 100% available to me. It will always be available to you. This is a choice. And honestly, that's how I conquered portion control. Once I gave up all of the foods that caused me to overeat, I no longer had a problem overeating. I don't overeat meats. I don't overeat vegetables. I don't have to count. I don't have to track. And I maintain my weight loss. And final piece of real talk today, just like any other addiction, there is no way I would have kicked this on my own. I am not stronger than it was. I know because I tried. Just like the portion control thing when they're like, just eat less. Yeah, okay. How? Like, how do I stop eating this food that I really want to eat all the time? Like, I hired a coach. I joined a support group. And I went to meetings 6 days a week. That's what I did. I know it sounds excessive. I'm not saying you do that. I'm saying that's what it took for me. Being there with people in the same boat was so reassuring. Knowing that people had gone before me and conquered it was so reassuring because it's super hard to go it alone. Make good choices.